Hey everyone, welcome to another episode in the TRC How To series. I'm Jeremy, the Traveling Shaver, and today we're going to be discussing how to shave with a Shavette. Now, a couple things that I think should be addressed before we get into the how-tos is the terminology. Now, one of the things that I should mention is the phrase or the word Shavette actually refers to a single razor type. And that is a razor made by Dovo, and that is the Dovo Shavette. And this is a Dovo Shavette. You can see right there, if my lighting were better, it actually says Shavette on it. Now, in the wet shaving space, for the most part, any time that you see the term Shavette used in a shave of the day or in any videos, anything like that, it is generally understood that they mean anything with a replaceable blade as far as a straight razor. Now, that could be with a folding handle, like we see here with the IBC, folding handle Shavette or barber's razor, or you also have the fixed handle in the Feather. Here I have the Feather SS. Now, there are many types of barber's razors. Now, for sake of terminology used in the community, we're going to stick with the term Shavette. But just want to keep in mind that the term Shavette does specifically refer to this type of razor by Dovo. Now, one thing that was great with this razor is there were 3 different inserts you could get at one point. If you have one of these razors, I highly recommend getting this green insert that takes a Persona Lab or a Persona hair shaper blade. Phenomenal, takes full advantage of the length here. That's been since discontinued. They also, if you can still find them, come with this black insert that takes a Dovo blade, which is the same thickness as a DE. You snap that in half, place that in here, and again, uses the full length of the insert. That has also been discontinued as of fairly recently. They now come with this clear insert that takes a half DE blade that only utilizes a little bit of the space there. So not quite as versatile as they used to be. However, the Dovo was my very first Shavette or replaceable blade barber's razor, and I still love it to this day. The Dovo's fantastic. Now, there are razors like the Parker SX, like this one here, you see the classic Samurai. This takes a half DE and is opened up by this little clamshell here on the top. Then you separate that and put in the blade. This has blade in it, so I'm not gonna open it. Again, half DE, not bad. Then you also have something like this. This is a Kai Captain, very similar head geometry to a Feather DX. This takes an AC blade. Phenomenal razors. The Feather, great razor as well. Now, this evening, I will be using 2 different razors. That is the IBC, as well as the non-folding handle Feather as well. The soap this evening is Barbus, and I whipped it up in my Captain's Choice copper bowl, and I used a Simpson's Trafalgar T1. Most of the gear that I'm using is either in stock or available at the razor company. One thing I like with the IBC is this is very versatile. Right here I have a Feather Professional AC blade in here. This can take a half DE, and it can also take hair shaper blades or injector blades. My personal favorite is using the half DE. Now, holding a Shavette is very similar to that of a straight razor. For me personally, I like my 2 fingers here above or in front of the handle, one on the tang, and then this goes underneath. The IBC does have a really short tang or tail here. One of the good things with the IBC is this is wider, so your thumb just kind of sits there and it's perfect, gives you really great balance. If you have something like the Kai or the Feather, has a really long tail and has some jimping here to provide better grip as you're shaving. The Feather non-folding SS, this is a nice kind of rubbery plastic. It is not ergonomic at all as far as there's no bumps or anything, but I've never had an issue with grip on this, even with extremely wet hands. Now, using a Shavette or barber's razor, whatever you want to call it, we're going to use Shavette because that's the generally accepted term within the community, is very similar to that of a straight razor. You want to make sure you have an extremely well hydrated lather. if you're ball lather, you can always test your lather real quick by doing the suction cup. After that's been created, you can kind of scroll down a little bit and push the knot down in. If the suction cup's too much, it needs more water. This one's gonna take a little bit more water on it, but it's also has a little bit of bubbles in it, so we're not gonna hydrate that much more. If you face lather, you can kind of tell on your face when it's too wet or not. You can also kind of pull it away from your skin. See how it peaks. If it peaks, but then kind of goes back down or falls a little bit like it just did there, it's a good, nice hydrated lather. Skin stretching is also very important. So we're gonna start off with the IVC here. Now you can also, depending on your style, you can use your same hand for both sides of your face. Marion the Barbarian does this effectively, as does Frank Stromberg, no, not Frank, Monty Lindholm and Jeffrey Smith. They all use one hand and do both sides of their face. I use my left hand for my left side going down, right side, and then going against the grain or up, I use the opposite hand. So again, we're gonna put 2 fingers in front of the handle, one on the tail, this underneath to kind of cause just a little bit of balance, and then holding it here. You want a very light touch, light grip on the razor itself, and then stretch your skin as well. If you need to, kind of go in flat and then tilt, and once you kind of fold down a little bit here, you can tell when this starts to get hair. And after you've done this for a little bit, you'll just know instinctively what that angle is. Now with these, it's not as critical as it is with like a straight razor to not rinse. With these you can rinse because, especially with the IBC, you can take the screw out, you can replace these handles, you can replace these screws. That's one of the reasons I love the IBC. So here it did not pass the UN test, which is if the lather is hydrated enough, it just falls off the razor by itself, or with a little bit of assistance by tapping the top of the razor or the spine. So this could take a little more water. Now another difference between a Shavette and a straight razor is with a straight razor, now depending on who honed it, how sharp the blade is, kind of the stones used, you could probably get away with using a little bit of pressure with a straight razor. With the Shavette, you want no pressure. You basically just put that on your skin, find that angle, and just go. Let the blade and the razor do all the work. It is very easy to cut yourself with the Shavette. There have been plenty of times when I've gone in, especially under my nose. I was using an IBC when I was traveling one day. I was trying to get underneath my nose, and I went in, and I was at a hotel that I wasn't very familiar with. So I went in trying to get close and bumped the handle on the mirror, which just made that kind of go straight into my skin, just ever so slightly. And I got a good cut for that. So just the slightest touch with these can cut you. Another thing to keep in mind is, generally speaking, again, depending on who the Hohenmeister is that hones your straight razors, is most of the time a Shavette blade is going to be sharper than a straight razor because it is a machined edge. The blades are also thinner than straight razor blades, which can cause them to get sharper than a traditional straight. Now, if you get a razor that's been honed for the razor company by the captain, he puts on an amazingly sharp edge. It's fantastic. His edges are exceptionally sharp, but I still say that a Shavette blade right out of the package, feather, Kai, whatever that may be, is still going to be slightly sharper. Now we're going to use the feather here. Now with a feather or a fixed handled Shavette, I put 3 on top, the thumb underneath, and everything really is here with the balance. Just those are there to kind of, because your fingers go somewhere, and then just like with the tang or tail on a straight or a Shavette, I put my pinky underneath just to kind of give it a little bit more pivot. But everything is done mostly with my index finger and my thumb. Now, with the way my hair grows, so you saw I went down here, I went up on my neck. Here I'm going to go from my ear towards my goatee, and here I'm going to go up and then out. Those kind of show a little bit of the different techniques of using a Shavette as well. Again, very light touch. Using the fingers to move that as well. Now, some people watching may say, yeah, you're shaving with a Shavette, but you have a goatee. Yes, I do. But there are plenty of videos on my channel. I have a Shavette playlist where I'm completely clean shaven using Shavettes. So just because I have a goatee right now, doesn't mean I haven't shaved that area with a Shavette. Now here you saw I went up on my cheek, so I held that kind of like a pencil. I just did this and went up, and then as I was going across from my ear towards my jaw, I held it like this. Kind of like, you know, like I was going to go down with my pinky on top versus underneath, and went in and pulled on my ear to stretch the skin as well. Now, if I were doing my goatee area, if you're doing your goatee, start off with your dominant hand. You want to go in flat like this, or just a slight angle. Again, extremely light touch. This is where you will most likely cut yourself. If you're going underneath your nose, just kind of rock that down a little bit and go down. Just kind of go in and angle it down. And you want to make sure you're switching here as well, either by pulling that underneath like that, or do something to stretch that skin there. It'll also help decrease the chances of a cut. All right, so now we're going to the third pass. And yes, I've only done one pass on my neck. That's how I normally do things because of, again, how my hair grows. Even if I'm using a DE, single edge, safety razor, doesn't matter. I do one semi with the grain, then one semi against the grain on my neck. So I never do 2 passes on my neck. Cheeks, I'll do 3 passes. So we're gonna do a mixture here. A little bit of the IBC, a little bit of the feather. So IBC going up. When I go up with the IBC, take that to 90-degree angle. I always grab that, kind of where my thumb rests, put the 2 fingers here, and then my pinky back on the back side of the handle. Almost like I'm holding a Shavette or one of these razors, taking this and doing this instead. You can kind of see the similarities there. Now again here, I'm going to turn my head, stretch a little bit. And again, find that angle. Again, because of how my hair grows, I'm gonna go here, and I'll have to come back here and get a little bit of touch up there. Then going up. Now right here around your ears is very important to pay attention to. It is extremely easy to cut yourself as you're going up, catching that bottom earlobe or where your ear meets the side of your face. Exceptionally easy. And I've noticed here as well, I was kind of doing a little bit of buffing strokes. Because my hair is so thick, the buffing helps, gets it thick or cleaner. Now to go against the goatee, to line that up, I'm going to stretch a little bit here and just go sideways. And then if I need to, pull up a little bit more and get the jawline. Now again, here if I'm going up, I'll do half the side here. I'll pull down my skin here. And go up. Now if we go over back, because of again how my hair grows, so if we show a downstroke with this, so again I'm holding it like I demonstrated earlier. And down. Then if I'm going up, again I hold that like a pencil. And there I go up again. Now one thing with a Shavette, whether it be a fixed handled, folding handle, or Japanese style, I think is another way of saying this, or Eastern style versus Western style, is these are a little bit easier to maneuver because there's no handle getting in the way. It's just fixed. So it's a little bit easier to get around in areas like this, like the hollows of your neck. Now for my hollow of my neck, again, we're going to stretch. And here you can see in one part I went down. I was going at a little bit of an angle here, and that's kind of J-hooking also. So you can J-hook with the Shavette, either fixed handled or folding, but that's something I wouldn't do as you're starting to learn how to use one of these. That's a little bit more something you do as you get comfortable with it, and especially after you learn how your hair grows and how to get closer shaves with the Shavette. Now here, again, my hair grows this way and then down, so I'm going to turn the blade upside down and go in this way again. And that's also a good way to get your jawline with a straight razor or a Shavette. Then I'll switch to my left hand and then go up. Then after this, I'll come back in and clean up the line of my goatee. Then usually feel around, see if there are any spots that need to be cleaned up. We'll go back in here, and I'll pull on the side. And clean it up, make sure my lines look good. If I needed to as well, I'd come in and clean up the tops of my mustache area like so. Just kind of round it off a little bit. That's one way where the non-folding handle really shines, is, in my opinion, it's easier to shave one-handed with one of these versus a folding handled razor. Now just a bit more touch up here. We should be pretty good. All right, so again, here's gonna be a little bit of an angle. Because of how my hair grows. Now, one thing I do recommend, if you are first starting out with using a Shavette, whether it be fixed handle or folding handle, is one, be sure of how your hair grows. Make sure that you know that growth pattern. If you're using a shaped razor right now, you probably have a really good idea on your growth pattern. But I don't recommend doing a full shave with a Shavette to start off with. What I recommend is doing, if your hair grows down on your cheeks, just do your cheeks, go down. I'll start off with, I use my Kai, there's no blade in it. So start off, kind of find that angle. You can even feel it here, even if there's no blade. Just go down a little bit. Just the bottom of your ear. and that's good. Next time, go down a little bit further. And then do your entire cheek area on both sides. After that, you get comfortable, maybe go into your neck a little bit. Just do it slowly. It's not a race. You're not out. You don't need to impress anybody by doing a complete shave the first time with a Shavette. The goal is to enjoy the shave, learn the skills, learn the light touch, learn the angle. Every Shavette I use has a slightly different angle. You may have seen that when I used the IBC compared to the Feather. You might have seen how that was even just slightly off, slightly different angles with both of these razors. Switching razors is something that's not easy to do as well during the shave. It doesn't matter if you're using a Kai or a Feather or the Dovo or something like the Classic Samurai, the Parker. Every angle on every Shavette is going to be slightly different. So make sure you use the Shavette, get to know it, but don't expect phenomenal, clean BBS shaves the first time you do it. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some practice. Because there is no safety bar on these razors, you may end up cutting yourself because it is easy to cut yourself. As you can see, that is just an exposed blade. So it's easy. Don't get intimidated though. Using a Shavette is very therapeutic, at least I find it therapeutic. It's very enjoyable and very rewarding. There's nothing more that I enjoy in shaving than getting a BBS or dang near BBS shave while using a Shavette. It's not something a lot of people use. It is something that can help take your skills with straight razors, double-edged razors, single-edged razors up to the next level. So anyway, if you're interested in using Shavettes, there'll be links to the Shavettes below. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time.